The Ice Monkey has always been a polarizing terror in BTD6. But why? What could possibly make a simple stalling monkey controversial to use? Well, its freezing attacks nullify the damage dealt by sharp projectiles, and when sharp is one of the most common damage types in the game, it's hard to find monkeys that synergize well with it. It doesn't help that the Ice Monkey is also extremely volatile to balance changes. Give it too much strength, and you end up with a monkey that can permanently stall super ceramics. But make it too weak, and it feels lackluster to play compared to other monkeys. While it's certainly in a more balanced place now, Ninja Kiwi has slowly been reverting nerfs and giving small buffs to bring the Ice Monkey back into the spotlight. But there's a lot to unpack about the modern day Ice Monkey, so without further ado, let's get right into it. The top path is renowned for providing extra DPS and freezing utility. While not the best at both, its flexibility allows it to be used in a wide range of setups. Starting with Permafrost, it adds a debuff to the Ice Monkey's attack that slows all small balloons by 50% after they thaw out. And when cross-pathed with the tier 5, it can be applied to blimps, but its slowdown is halved. Meanwhile, Cold Snap grants the Ice Monkey lead and camo popping power, which is surprisingly the only upgrade in the game that can do that. But most importantly, it enables any path to damage DDTs without external support. Upgrading to Ice Shards, it adds yet another status effect to its base freeze, but this time it makes frozen balloons shoot sharp icicles when popped. And more recently, its freeze now strips camo and regrow properties off small balloons. While a considerable damage boost, Ice Shards is predominantly a stepping stone upgrade and isn't used outside of race events. Embrittlement improves the Ice Monkey's base attack to apply the Brittle debuff, which temporarily strips frozen and lead properties off balloons, while making them susceptible to 1 extra damage. The debuff can also be applied to Moab class balloons, but they can't be frozen in place like their smaller counterparts. By itself, its base attack isn't remarkable by any means, however when paired with low damage high projectile monkeys, it can decimate swarms. After all, one of its biggest synergies is with the tack zone, because it greatly benefits from damage boosts, and its freeze doesn't destroy its tacks without monkey knowledge. And to cap off this path, Super Brittle acts as a beefed up version of Embrittlement, increasing the brittle damage bonus to 4, decreasing its attack cooldown by 33%, and applying a watered down version of Permafrost to Moabs. While in most cases it is overkill, overdrive spam in Super Brittle isn't a bad strategy, and its debuff is essential for bosses and freeplay. Not to mention its debuff can be stacked with Embrittlement to give a total of plus 5 damage. But strong utility comes at an equally high cost, and for the top path, it is range. Compared to the base Ice Monkey, it only receives a measly plus 5 range, which is nothing compared to the other paths. Although Embrittlement can easily get range buffs, it doesn't fix the underlying problem it has: consistency. Having such a low area of effect allows purples, pinks, and even yellows to slip past unscathed. And with these balloons forming the bulk of the early game camos, its T-camo capabilities are far from reliable. And on top of that, its innate weakness to white balloons also leads it to be hard countered by certain waves, like the end of round 37. Although Top Path Ice synergizes well with a lot of monkeys, its over-reliance on external support often relegates it as a niche side tower that can often be skipped. Now, the mill path has had a wild history. From being average, to borderline broken, to average again. Time hasn't been on the mill path side. In fact, patch 45 marks the first update in years where this path has received a buff. Despite that, the mill path has a set of solid upgrades that when used properly can completely change the dynamics of a game. Starting with Enhanced Freeze, it increases the Ice Monkey's attack speed by 33%. A rather simple upgrade in concept, but it synergizes well with any path. But the same cannot be said about Deep Freeze. Originally, it allowed the Ice Monkey to just freeze 2 additional layers, which obviously wasn't very good. But over time, Ninja Kiwi has slowly added additional effects, with no ulterior motives whatsoever. But jokes aside, the minuscule bonuses the upgrade provides makes it hard to justify the $450 price tag. Moving to Arctic Wind, the Ice Monkey now emits a chilling wind within its range, which slows all freezable balloons by 40%, while also allowing any land monkey to walk on water. Together, these buffs make Arctic Wind a potent ceramic staller, but with its strength being a lot lower than it used to be, it's not always my first pick for a cheap ceramic stalling tower. Meanwhile, Snowstorm improves on Arctic Wind by increasing its range by 10 units, while adding an ability that freezes almost all balloons on screen for 6 seconds. And I said almost because there are some exceptions to the ability. Firstly, leads and DDTs are immune to being frozen unless the Ice Monkey has some form of lead popping power. White, Camo and Moab class balloons are only frozen for half the duration. And on top of that, Moab class balloons are slowed instead of frozen in place. While all these weaknesses sound bad, most of them are easy to manage, and the range boost is nothing to scoff at. However, like Arctic Wind, Snowstorm simply hasn't aged well, and is no longer the powerhouse it used to be. And the final upgrade in this path, we have Absolute Zero. Like Super Brittle, it doesn't do much to reinvent what this path does, but one thing we know for sure is that it has absolute zero chill for weakness. The base attack gets even more range and shed loads of extra pierce. The Chilling Wind slowdown is improved to 60%, while the ability lasts longer, has a shorter cooldown, and can freeze or slow any balloon type for its full duration. On top of that, all Ice Monkeys on screen attack 50% faster for the same duration as the freeze. While these bonuses are strong, its 20k price tag makes it hard to slide into most strategies, and the attack speed buff leaves little to be desired, but more on that later. One of the most redeeming parts of this path is its diverse cross-pathing. The top path adds permafrost to the ability, while also allowing Snowstorm to freeze leads and DDTs without a MIB or D-lead, while the bottom path improves the base freeze's consistency, while also getting extra ice platform range. Despite it being crippled by nerfs, the middle path ice is still a decent stalling monkey for its price. It's just outclassed and doesn't work well with sharp projectiles. Now this is probably one of my hotter takes, but to be honest, the bottom path ice is the black sheep of the Ice Monkey. And it's not because I think Impale is bad. In fact, I think it's one of the better upgrades. It's just the rest of the path is mediocre at best, or provides a stronger benefit as a cross path. But heading into the upgrades, we start with larger radius. And to nobody's surprise, it increases the Ice Monkey's range by 7 units. While sharing the simplicity of Enhanced Freeze, extra range is situational, especially since the top path has to sacrifice attack speed to get it. Refreeze falls under the same boat of being self-explanatory in what it does. However, it's even more situational, since it's only used as a cross path to improve the middle path's freeze. Moving to the more specialised Cryo Cannon, it changes the Ice Monkey's radial clap to an ice cannon that fires freezing snowballs. The snowballs deal 2 damage instead of the usual 1, and has a lot more range. Now if I made this video a couple of years ago, I would have said it's a strong ceramic staller, but it got heavily nerfed and has remained in a weakened state for quite some time. Only recently most of its main nerfs got reverted, but with the ceramic stalling meta being vastly different from what it was a few years ago, it's yet to find its place. Icicles on the other hand has always been extremely weak. Its high costs for slightly above average ceramic support isn't a good start, and its weak mob damage even with the recently added bonus doesn't help it either. Only get this if you're saving up for Impale, since it doesn't hold up well late game. Finally, we're at the main star of this path, Icicle Impale. While having one of the most brutal save-ups, the buffs are well worth the wait. Its icicles now deal 50 damage to Moabs, and has the ability to slow them down in the same way as Snowstorm. But don't be misled by the numbers. While plus 50 Moab damage does sound good on paper, its relatively low attack speed makes it a terrible single target DPS. Sure, Impale is strong enough to make DDTs want to pop themselves, but when faced against ZOMGs and higher, it struggles to leave a dent in them. Hence Impale works well with monkeys with high pierce and damage, such as Moabdom, Tech Terror, and Bez. Another strong synergy it has is with Overclock, because it makes stalling more consistent, and it can proc its icicles a lot more often. Absolute Zero is also worthy of a mention, but 5k more for an objectively worse attack speed boost leaves little to be desired. but despite all the flack I've given this path, its cross-pathing options are among some of the best in the game. The top path adds permafrost, which can be a neat bonus in the rare scenario where Impale is pierce capped. But cheap camo and lead popping power is an absolute godsend for Impale. However, if you're already purchasing a MIB or D-lead, the mill path has some extremely strong benefits as well. The extra attack speed allows it to store more Moabs at any given time, and on top of that, it makes the bonuses of Deep Freeze worth picking up. To be honest, I'm unsure which cross path to recommend, because both of them are amazing. Just pick the one that best fits your setup, and stick with it. But overall, the bottom path does provide some merit with its ceramic and Moab support. However, like the mill path, it's simply outclassed by newer and stronger stalling monkeys. So really, how good is the Ice Monkey? It's definitely not the worst monkey in the game, it's just that Ninja Kiwi has been relatively stubborn in buffing it, since it was the stalling meta for quite some time. And because of that, the Ice Monkey has fallen into the depths of mediocrity, with no sign of returning anytime soon. While I would like a resurgence of the Ice Monkey, returning it in an overpowered state wouldn't be healthy for the meta, especially since we already have some borderline overpowered stalling monkeys. But if I would give it a buff, I would suggest to give Icicles a weakened version of Impale's Slow, so saving up for Impale is a little more tolerable. However, we have to wait and see what Ninja Kiwi does in future patches. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later.